Ngā te whare. Te manga te whare tēnā koe, tēnā koutou o e te whare. Ka tui o mō ngā kakariki ki te korero I te panuitanga tuatahi o tēnei Te Piri Fire and Emergency Bill. Very pleased to take a short call on this bill. And the Green Party is pleased to be supporting it and the modernisation of the fire service that it precipitates and setting the fire service on our fire services on a good path for the future. And I must say, Mr Speaker, whenever the siren goes in the middle of the night to call out the volunteers in the area that I live, I'm enormously grateful for their skills, their commitment and that huge gift of time that they provide to dealing with fires, to dealing with accidents, and particularly in Christchurch after the earthquakes, the Volunteer Fire Brigade in Diamond Harbour was the core of the response and to reassuring the community by simple things like taking the fire truck around the streets immediately after, in the hours after the February quake, just to reassure people that they were there, to requisitioning a big water tank, I think, that was on its way to a farmer, and that became the hub of the water supply for the community when people's tanks were unable to cope. And so the Voluntary Fire Brigade is a huge part of our emergency services response, and this bill in modernising the services and ensuring that there is a greater commitment from the words of the Minister to integrating them with the fire services is a good step forward, because as others have said, there are about 13,000 paid and volunteer staff in the fire service, and a very high proportion of those, around 80%, are volunteers. So we're very pleased by the Minister's comments that the bill retains the existing entitlements of volunteers and that it will increase the support for volunteer firefighters. And I think the bill also has provisions in it that Fire and Emergency New Zealand must take reasonable steps to recognise, respect and promote the contribution of volunteers and must consult with them and relevant organisations. We are interested, though, in some of the clauses of the bill, because Clause 11 sets out the main functions of Fire and Emergency New Zealand, and Clause 12 sets out some additional functions. And those additional functions are to the extent that Fire and Emergency New Zealand has the capability and capacity to implement them. And one of those additional functions is responding to severe weather-related events, natural hazard events and disasters. And, Mr Speaker, the Green Party will be very interested in submissions as to whether that should be elevated to be more of a key purpose, because as we saw with the Christchurch earthquakes and with climate change and the increasing likelihood of more intense weather events, particularly more severe storm events with warmer air temperatures that can retain more water, so the storm events are more severe and there's more rainfall, the fire services being called out to respond to those and having to have the operational capacity, not just with fire trucks, but potentially also with boats because of significant flooding that we've seen in Northland, in South Dunedin and elsewhere. So whether that should be much more of a core function of the new organisation. And the other area where the government should take much more cognisance of the impacts of climate change is, of course, the increasing risk of fire danger. And we have seen those chilling photographs of the spread of wildfires in Canada and the United States. And the work that the Ministry for Primary Industries has done in New Zealand shows that there's likely to be quite a significant increase in the fire danger, particularly in eastern parts of New Zealand, where we're likely to have more drought with climate change. We're likely to have longer fire seasons and increased fire load because the vegetation has dried out, and much drier and much windier conditions. So yet another example of why we need to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, because climate change is going to put even more stress on our fire services and on our urban and rural populations. And the other area that we'd be particularly interested in submissions is in relation to the offence provisions, because the...
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member's time has expired. Sewer Williams-Seal.